How ready are global companies for the future? IMD's Centre for Future Readiness has ranked them, looking at 93 of the largest tech, pharmaceutical and fashion companies. In the tech sector, the US giant Nvidia moved up into the top spot with its investment in artificial intelligence, scoring a perfect 100. Microsoft moves down to second place and Meta stays at number 3. The Taiwanese chipmaker TSMC moves up 9 places to number 12. What about the pharmaceutical sector? Well, the Swiss company Roche scored a perfect 100, putting it in first place. The spectacular success of weight loss drug makers propelled Denmark Novo Nordisk and the US Eli Lilly into second and third place. And in fashion, the luxury takes the lead. Powerhouses Hermes and LVMH earn the top 2 spots thanks to what the report called thoughtful expansion rather than aggressive growth. Nike fell from first to fourth place, and the report said the company was losing focus. Well, Professor Howard Yu is director of the IMD Centre for Future Readiness. I asked him whether the companies are ready for Donald Trump.
I think some companies are, some others don't. In the end, it comes down to how prepared organization can pivot in an unknowable world. Because there's just so much unpredictability it's going to throw at us, and the winner are the one who can quickly pivot whenever it's needed.
Well, that's the challenge in corporate life, isn't it? You say quickly pivot. I mean, you think about all of the industries who might be affected by Trump tariffs. It's easy to say. It's very difficult to say, be flexible, pivot quickly. Corporates can't easily do that, can they?
Not so much, actually, because what you've seen is there are companies already prepared, the supply chain agility, the mastery of data, and also developing a much more diversified global footprint, so that when tariffs happen, you have the information at your fingertips. And look, in competition, you do not need to be perfect. You just need to stay 1 inch ahead of your competitor, then you win big.
You talk about supply chain preparedness. We've been through COVID. We remember the blockages to supply chain of the canals, the Panama canals, and all that meant. We know what wars do to supply chains, both in the Middle East and in Ukraine. In a sense, there is no excuse, is there, for global industry not to be prepared? We've been through this in recent history. We've had a go at it once already.
That's it. I mean, there's so many companies getting stuck with what I call the knowing and doing gap. They know what's needed. It's like me, I know I need to exercise every day, eat healthy, but I just procrastinating. Same thing for companies, right? You said it. We've seen that movie before. This is just a sequel. There's no excuse.
When you and I stand here at the end of this next Trump presidency, what's the corporate world going to look like?
I think we're going to see organizations that not just survive but prosper are the one who knows how to talk to all sides. Because in the end, a global company, you cannot pick side, right? You just need to be all in all market. That means sometimes you go direct into a particular market. Sometimes you do joint venture. It's all frenemies. Sometimes you are friends, sometimes you're enemies, sometimes you compete, sometimes you cooperate. That's how you make the pie bigger.
We've talked about generalities. Let's drill down just for a second, okay? Let's look at big pharma around the world, okay? An incoming Trump presidency could cast an enormous shadow over big pharma. We're watching the appointment of vaccine skeptic Robert F. Kennedy's health secretary. Right. What's that going to do to global pharma?
I don't think it's just vaccine.
No, it isn't.
He's going to scrutinize big time in all kinds of treatment. He's going to scrutinize in terms of patient outcome. If you're looking at a track record of what are the area he pays most attention for, is whether pharmaceutical companies are making too much money based on science that are a little bit more skeptical. I think what that means is if history is a guide, then there will be enormous pressure in looking at patient outcome. When government, payer, and insurance are paying certain amount of treatment, does it really improve mortality at the population level? So I think this is not just hitting companies big in, vaccines, such as Sanofi, for instance, but would be whether it's Novartis, Roche in oncology, Pfizer in mRNA treatment, Ozempic of the world on obesity treatment, all sorts. It's going to be all sorts. So the kind of getting approval from FDA and making huge amount of money era probably is over.
There's a whole documentary to talk about that, but I just want to talk to you about one other global sector. Let's look at artificial intelligence for a moment, both in Asia and in the United States. But Asia isn't quite managing to translate its influence into global markets, is it? I mean, what needs to change on Asia AI?
Yeah, I think the only exception is TSMC,
Yeah.
right? For the rest of the technology company, either they somehow lose their relevance or it's very hard to tightly integrate it into this expansive ecosystem. I think two things are going on. One is the deep tech that needs to play catch up. So we're talking about large language model, the idea about chipset. Asia is still behind by the leading companies by all measures. But the solution comes down to, if you're thinking about Southeast Asia as a region, for instance, then maybe it's brokering technology to find a last mile deployment would be useful. Sort of repeat a little bit of what has been so good in e-commerce. Look, Gen AI, the future deployment are so many application arena. So probably we need to push the e-commerce to the next level. And that could be the potential leeway for Asian company to step up ahead again.